Hello, Africa. Hello, world. My name is Lino Buoge,
And my beautiful name is Dorcas Omwale.
and this is Friends from Africa for Africa. Quite excited for this particular one as we are here to answer the greatest why. Why us?
Why Rafiki Free?
Why do we exist?
Why media?
Why media? This is going to be one of a lifetime as we question why is media an important tool for the progress of Africa. Now that we're on this particular conversation, I'd love to turn to you, my dear friend, and ask you, maybe we started from a personal point of view. Has media shaped you in any way or form? Have you ever felt the impact of media in your particular life? And if so, how?
Who have felt media in very many aspects of my life? We say media shapes perspective, media shapes narratives, media shapes culture, and it has impacted me in different areas. Let's talk about fashion. Let's talk about how we speak. Let's talk about education in different forms.
Yeah.
Media has impacted me since when I was a kid till now. Media still informs a lot of things in my life.
All right. Could you discuss how, in an instance, how you feel media has gotten you to a point where you're like, oh my goodness, that was media's role in my life. I can see it clearly. I can see how it defined my thinking and how the narrative got to me. Could you probably expound on that?
I think one of the greatest things I can say that media has played a big role in my life. I think let me talk about music.
For sure.
I love listening to music and I've loved music since when I was young. I can listen to almost all genres. I don't think I have specific, And what music does also, music brings the world closer to you. Music helps you to understand and learn different cultures in the world. I think it builds a certain curiosity. I was like, I want to travel to this particular nation. Why? Because of the kind of music. I, their culture seems so different. And I've always been one of the people who's talk about music and culture, how music plays a very big role in just expounding the culture of a specific part of the
Absolutely,
world.
yeah.
So I think for me, music, I've seen music play a big role, and this is through media. Music media since when I was a kid.
So you make the statistic of the kids who used to run home by 5 p.m. You have to have the baton on.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Honestly,
And you
I
switch
met
the
the
TV
statistic.
off when dad
I
comes
do.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen music, and partly I would say cartoons, but I've never been such a big
Fan
fan.
of
You know
cartoon.
that.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed cartoon just because the people that I was with loved cartoons, but I
Yeah.
won't say really cartoons. For me, it has always been music. I've seen how music has helped me understand different cultures and just learn different parts of the world
Oh my
through
goodness.
music.
Absolutely amazing. That
Yeah.
is brilliant and beautiful. I mean, it's funny you mentioned cartoons because I still watch cartoons. I'm never growing
You
up,
have
guys.
been a
I'm gonna be
big
50
fan.
with my children watching Disney. We better pay for it.
Yeah.
I swear watching a lot of cartoon growing up, maybe it's the cause of my mischief. It might be the cause of my mischief. I do love. I watched a lot of cartoon growing up, and probably I also learned a lot about value system, being good, kindness through a
Yes.
lot of films, cartoon films
Cartoon
growing up.
films. Yeah.
I also see the impact of media in my own life through representation. My first
Ooh.
time
Yeah.
ever thinking about media was Beatrice Marshall. Beatrice Marshall was such a statement in our home because KTN in our home was it back in the day,
Yeah.
and Beatrice Marshall was such a beautiful, brilliant journalist that you couldn't help but admire.
Yeah.
So through media, I saw, is that what it looks like? Is that the possibility of my dreams? Is that reachable? Is that closer to me than
Can
I
you say that
think?
is the reason why maybe you're now doing media? Did it in any way at that particular time?
Yeah.
Did it in any way make you feel like I want to do journalism when I grow up? Did it at
No,
that particular time?
not quite. I knew there's a type of woman I aspire to be because I mean during the Hague, Fatou Bensouda was the
Oh,
woman I looked
okay.
up to. If you quite remember, I wanted to be an international criminal lawyer. The grades did not support, or rather, the
Yeah.
effort I put did not support that.
The
But
effort.
Fatou Bensouda, because it was almost in the media all the time, was a woman I looked up to. So I couldn't say that's why I do journalism, but I do know the women brought in my media or close to me at home through
Media.
media made me feel like it is possible to be that kind of woman.
Yeah.
If you did it, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And in the recent times, we can have aspects of Elsa Majimbo, who would
Mm.
probably eat crepes with matutas. Is it matatus or matutas? You know,
Matutas.
her hair just done in the simplest of ways, and it made you feel like that is actually real.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Achieng Agutu. Beautiful woman, absolutely walks in confidence, and the idea that she keeps on appearing on media makes me feel like that is brilliant.
No, that is in the recent times.
That is in the recent times. I
Okay.
also owe media a lot of orator skills
Mm-hmm.
because just from different people, I'd get maybe my father sending me a couple of people to consume.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the impact I've felt in media. How I
Mm-hmm.
speak and how I present myself is probably courtesy of how I consumed media growing up.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm.
And on that note, I'd want to know, this is just us
Mm-hmm.
defining how media brought perspective and narrative into our lives, how it made
Mm-hmm.
dreams possible. I'm quite curious to also know,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that the power that media yields on people could negatively or positively affect them? Are there things that were also brought into media or are propagated by media that negatively affected us? What we've talked about mostly is quite positive, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
If we flip the coin, do you think
Mm-hmm.
inversely we have negative stories and things being propagated by media
Mm-hmm.
and how they affected you?
Yeah, media has two sides of it. It has the positive side, and of course it has the negative side. And you have seen that in the recent times,
Yeah.
especially with this AI thing. We have a lot of false information that is being disseminated through media. So we have ways that media can impact somebody negatively, and we have ways that it can impact you positively. As we have just mentioned, the positive aspects that media has shaped in our lives, and we have negative. I can't really pinpoint and say this is the reason, this is how media maybe impacted me negatively. I can't really pinpoint and say this, but we have seen how media has has negatively impacted people.
Impacted people, and most especially Africa.
And especially Africa, we have seen how Africa has been painted over and over again in the global media. Unlike what really we experience here in Africa and what you hear people talking about in Africa in the global media is something very different. The other day, Aisha Speed just came to visit Africa, and we saw the magnitude that had in shaping people's perspective about Africa.
Yeah,
We saw
yeah.
a lot of people coming up and say, we didn't know that this is how Africa is. We didn't know that Africa has this massive culture, the colors. It is just so exciting.
Yeah.
People are happy, and they're like, okay, seriously, did you people think we're not happy?
In the world of the internet,
I
is
mean,
Google not free over there?
so there was a certain narrative, and that was being propagated so much about Africa that was very, very negative, and that is one thing that we keep on fighting. You know, Stop telling African stories in this way. We want to tell our own stories. And there is this movement of we want to own the story, because who owns media owns the story.
Yeah.
So we want to have the media that we can fully control in a global aspect. We want to have media from Africa to the world fully owned
By
by
Africans,
Africans, so
for
that
sure.
we can tell our stories the way we know, because we are the ones living here.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest, I will say, negative ways that media has impacted people is us actually through telling stories of Africa.
Through telling stories of Africa.
Yeah.
And I love that you say that because a lot of our identity is formed, shaped by what is constantly propagated in the media.
What we consume.
What we consume. We've seen a couple of young people probably self-hating because they feel they're not good
Oh.
enough, because what is being propagated in media is uh, westernized beauty standards,
Yes.
that you need to be a certain hue to be loved, you need
Yeah.
to have certain type of hair to be
To be
loved.
loved.
And we have created a sense of self-hate courtesy of what the media has propagated for a
You
long
need to have
time.
a certain body to be
A
loved and to
certain
be
body to be
accepted.
we are Africans, we're gonna be a bit, we're gonna be a bit meaty, we're gonna be a
Yeah.
bit big, we're gonna be a bit small. We
Yeah,
come in
sure.
different ways, and accepting that has been quite difficult as everyone is trying to be a certain type of way, courtesy of what the media has propagated. And this, now I give props to alternative media
Ooh.
as to what it has done for us and how far it has come to help us deconstruct the idea that has been propagated for a long time. So happy that you mentioned I Show Speed, because there was no narrative that was being pushed.
No
Rather, he came
narrative.
to document the joys, the happiness, and the true lives of Africans. Now,
The
what
true lived realities of
Africans,
Africans.
the joys, the
Joy.
happiness, the food,
Yeah.
the infrastructure. I mean, you thought we lived in hearts? You thought we lived with baboons? You thought we lived where?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Come
And this is
on.
courtesy of media.
And this is courtesy of alternative
Native
media.
media. Yeah.
Now, it brings a question. Could alternative media and mainstream media work together not to propagate certain stories? Because I'm not here to have a fight. No, I'm here to just question, and we're never here to question. The question is, if mainstream media was to sit down, forget who owns you, because we do know it also has an impact on how you tell your stories. If we truly sat and said we want to tell the stories of Africa by Africans, not by those who own Africa, because the system was handed to us. When we build our own systems, what kind of future do you look at with that kind of media built with our own systems?
What kind of Africa am I looking at
Yes.
when basing it on media?
Yes.
I think Africa owned media entities, at least one, two, three, four, even up to 10 or even more at the global space. The ones that are telling Africa, pure African stories, without any influence. Because you've seen, as much as we have media that that is telling African stories by Africans, yes, but it still has some influence. So having at least purely owned the one that is being run by Africans
Yeah.
for Africans, telling our stories the way we want. Even if it's a negative story from Africa, let us tell it. Positive, let us be the one telling it.
Yes.
Even for films, the same thing. For films, for music, we don't want to have too much of too much influence from outside.
Yeah.
For films the same way. We have seen a lot of films that are not fully independent,
Okay.
just because they're being influenced by
Certain aspects. Yeah.
by the Western culture. Let's talk of donorship. Let us talk of this budget issue. Let us talk of fundraising. You find maybe three-quarter or half of the people fundraising are not really from Africa.
Africa.
And that means the story has to be told now from somebody else's lens. And such stories do bear a lot of misrepresentation.
Absolutely.
The information is so distorted. It does not bear the original living realities of Africa.
For sure. And that brings the question of, and I mean, I have so many questions because at the end of the day, we need to find answers to them to better the
Yes.
systems that we operate in already and whether
Yes.
we can move forward.
Yeah, sure.
The information that is distorted, is there a future where we can have community voices being first represented before any other thing? You've talked about the aspect of funding. The funding will influence, of course, the level of how the story is being told.
Okay.
And when the story is not being told for the interest of the people, how do we flip the coin? How do we change the course? How do we change the tides?
Actually, let me just say this. I think when we talk about funding, when you talk about budgets, and with this I'm talking about the film industry. I may not be the best when it comes to filming, but when we talk about funding, most of this funding maybe comes from outside, and this now begs the questions: Africans for
Africa,
Africans.
yeah.
Don't you have people who can just
Tell those stories?
and also just fund the same stories? Do we really have to go outside to seek for that funding? If we want to tell our stories our own way, we might as well just collect these funds from within. Now that you're talking about Africans for
Africans,
Africans,
for sure.
so it does not only involve the media from a point, just media as an own entity. It means we all need to come together from the
Together.
manufacturing industry, from the media industry, from
Policies,
business,
investors,
policies, leadership,
policymakers.
policymakers. We all need to work together when we talk about Africans for Africa. Because when we say music, when we say sports, when you talk about and media being the main medium for
The
all
main
this,
channel.
being the main channel for all this, it is just media just serves as a channel. But even when we talk about sports, still it tells the story of
A people.
a people.
Yeah.
It still represents a culture of a people.
Yeah.
The same case to music. Then the same case even to the stories that journalists are telling.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if we want our community voices to be heard, we should be at the forefront.
At the forefront.
From our leaders need to take the front seat to championing for their own
For
people.
their own people.
You know,
I love that you say that, absolutely. And when it comes to grassroots communities, most especially, we have to understand that mainstream plays a key role. So far, we've seen wars between the two different fronts. We've seen alternative media to the far right, and we've seen mainstream media to the far left.
yeah,
We've seen them not wanting to come together. When mashinani bado wanatumia radio,
yeah,
mashinani bado radio zinatumika,
yeah.
mashinani bado kipepeo kikuu cha matangazo ni radio.
So
Let's
we
not
can't say
forget
that
that.
radio is completely dead, because also that is a certain that's another notion that most people do have,
Do I have?
that radio is completely dead, or
Yeah.
radio is dying. How many years now
How
since you
many?
started hearing radio
Radio
is
is dead.
dying?
It is still alive
It
and
is still
kicking.
alive.
And many of us kule mashinani wanategemea
Yeah.
radio. Wacha niongee kwa lugha ambayo si wote tunaelewa kuwa radio will forever be there. Aswa, because when you go to interior places, you find that they depend on this. So mainstream and alternative need to find a working ground
A working
for the
ground.
African people. We have to find a working, collaborative nature to our work. Let's not forget more Africans right now are getting access. Let's not forget that journalists, creatives, anyone is also getting intimidated at the far right when they want to tell the true story of the African people.
And speaking about uh, the mainstream and digital working together, we've just mentioned a lot of influence from outside. Do you think also influence from within our own people is making it hard for them to collaborate with the digital? And we have mentioned different influences. We've talked about the Western influence. Do you think even influence from within is making it hard from mainstream not to work with digital?
All right. How does this influence from within look like if you were to give it a description?
When you talk about mainstream, most of the time we say it's owned. You know,
Yeah.
the other day you're talking about media should not stop acting as a PR of some farm of some
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah.
You know, it should call people to accountability. It should
As
call
the
these
fourth
leaders.
estate.
It should call these leaders to accountability. When we move to the digital side, most of the digital, it's not. We can't say that it's also owned, but we can't say that fully owned by a certain system. You know, so sometimes even the systems make it difficult for our own even journalists to tell their stories, to tell stories in a certain way. You know, there is a way the information is being filtered. Is it for our own good? You know, sometimes you want to question, is it for our own good? Do they filter this information for our own good?
Or to
But
tell a
when
particular story and to control the narrative
or
in a
to just
certain
control
way.
the narrative. So
It
it
could
makes
be.
it sometimes difficult for them to collaborate with the digital side. Because if you want to filter this information, I will take my phone, I will say what I think this is right, I will take the phone and break down a whole bill if you don't want to do it on mainstream.
Okay.
You know, so the controls, can we
Yes.
say sometimes the controls make it difficult for them also to
I mean,
collaborate?
who owns media plays a key role
Yeah.
on how the story is also told. If the aspect of I give the money or I give you advertisement
Yeah.
or I pay the bills sometimes within a certain context will limit us from wanting the free speech.
Yes.
This brings us down to opinion leaders on alternative media and how they shape perspective as well. So if you do not give me that opportunity on mainstream, these little voices, remember the constitution recognizes citizen journalists nowadays.
Yes.
I am yet to appeal that. I'm not very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But we shall get to that conversation one time.
Yeah.
But the point is, people can also raise concerns and raise the stories. So, yeah, there could be internal factors from within our own, systems that we've borrowed
Yeah.
that also limit that collaboration. And that is why it's a call. Clear the eyes, guys.
And even for our own leaders, it's very important that they use the media in the right way. You know, not to pair up media to propagate very silly, for lack of a better word, narratives, you know, narratives that paint Africa in a corrupt way, you know. I mean, narratives that paint even Africa in such a way that is so crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so even as leaders, let us let them collaborate with the media in a good way to champion for the betterment of we Africans,
Yeah.
of their own people, of their
Yeah.
own community.
I think when it comes to leaders, we see a lot of vested interests,
Vested
which makes
interest.
it a bit difficult for them to want to come to media
Yeah.
with a sense of wanting to see better. So again, it comes back to the people. We need to do better with our systems. We need to interrogate our systems. We need to embark on what we might call solutions journalism. We need to see more solutions. Yes, do we have some crisis here and there? For sure we do. We're not going to act as though we live in a perfectly painted house. But even with that, we have to show that the African people are people who are capable of coming up with their own solutions. We have
Yes.
to show that the African people are capable of deconstructing or reading in between the lines of agendas that are being set. We have to recognize that audiences have shifted. We have to recognize that the audience is equally intelligent. I mean, take it back to Maandamano.
And this was well executed during the Reject Finance Bill 2024.
Absolutely.
I mean, the media really played a big role
It
in just
did.
mobilizing the
In
young
just
people,
mobilizing the young people,
yeah,
in breaking down the
in breaking
complex
down the
information.
complex
We saw
information.
it in the Luo, we saw it in Kikuyu, we saw it in Kisi, we saw it in Ameru. And that was digital media.
Power of media.
Yeah, it was too powerful. There was shutdowns, right? Which is one of the few things holding media back, and we can't continue to see that. If we want an Africa that is rising, if we want an Africa that is going to get there,
Yes.
if we want to build the Africa that we want, we must ensure that media freedom is not curtailed. We
Yes.
must ensure that the media enjoys press freedom.
Press freedom,
We
because
must,
that is something that has really limited even how we are telling our
for
stories.
sure,
You know,
we must see creatives being given the freedom to speak.
to speak.
We must see
Yes.
creatives being given the freedom to exercise creative power, to
Yes.
question,
Yes.
right?
Very true.
So we need to see a better Africa. And with that, shaping, looking at it from our very own perspectives and the power it held, I really hope this space can become one that you can depend on in that particular matter. I hope this space is one that you come to and say, there's a bit of structure, there's a
Yes.
sense of direction, and this is a safe space. Not only for me, not only for you, not only for you who's watching or listening from home,
The
but
whole
for
community.
all of us
For all of
across
us.
Africa.
Yeah.
We hope to see community come across here. We hope to see more of us adding a voice in the comment section. Like now you can.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
you think media has done for you, how you think it can work for the betterment of the African people, how we can use it to see progress, to lobby for better Africa.
Let's use media to call people to accountability.
Absolutely.
You know, well, let's use it to. We talk of nowadays. I think a lot of young people say this, that nowadays I don't watch news.
News.
Why? Because I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be frustrated. I understand news has its own way of telling their own stories. News has its own way of framing stories. But at the same time, as that is happening, can you also show the positive side
Yeah.
too? The other day we were talking about how some news back in the day used to be breaking news,
Breaking news meant breaking news.
but now, right now, we see even a lot of our leaders into very big scandals, corruption scandals.
And it has been normalized.
It has
It's
been
normal.
so much
We feel
normalized.
nothing
We feel
anymore.
we feel nothing at all.
Yeah.
But this also builds a certain rage in the community. It builds a certain rage in people, and that's why it gets to a point people burst and they're going to the streets.
They're going to the streets.
Yeah,
Yes, I think this is a wonderful analysis of where we're standing as
yeah,
with media, how it has shaped our own personal lives. We've seen how it gets to the community and so much more. And maybe now, moving forward, this particular platform that we have, do
all
you
right.
think there's hope for it?
There is hope. Definitely, there is hope. And this majorly is also a call to young people,
Yeah.
majorly because I am one. If we want to see a better Africa, if we want to see a better Kenya, let's start. It starts with us. It
The
starts with
stories we
you as
tell.
an individual. What kind of stories are you telling? As journalists, we have heard of young journalists getting into the space, and it's like, oh, I can't exercise my freedom, I can't tell the story they want to tell. There are a lot of editorial rules, you're shifting, you're changing my story. If that's happening, you have your own power of
Yes.
telling that story
Yes.
the way you want to tell it.
Yes.
Spaces like this offer you that chance to put out your story the way you want to, to share that story. What is your main goal with telling that story? Instead of going through, let me say, sometimes a lot
Bureaucracies.
of bureaucracy, they tend to limit you, they tend to change your story. You can do it on your own. So from journalists to young business people, when you talk about films, and how we are seeing a lot of films are being funded from outside and all that. We have young business people coming up. Let us fund our own stories. From journalists, manufacturers, can we come collectively? Let's work collectively and fund our own solutions.
Yes.
It just starts with you believing that you can change somebody. You can change a mindset. You can change a certain community. It just starts with you, as small as it might seem. And then the kind of stories that we are telling from the journalists, this is also a call to mainstream media. What kind of stories are we really
Putting
telling?
out there.
What kind of stories are we putting out there? So there is hope for such. And I know a lot of such are gonna come up. And that's why I love what the young people are doing. If you don't want me to tell that story, if you don't want to interview me on that big platform, I have my phone.
Yeah.
I have my phone. I will share my opinion. As you have said, right now we have a lot of young citizen journalists. They will share their perspective. A lot of people are right now political analysts. So there is change if we collectively come together. And this was shown 2024 reject finance bill. If we can come together and say, we do not want this, we do not want poor leadership, and say from you out.
Yeah.
And use the power of media.
Yeah.
Because media shapes narratives,
yeah.
perspectives. For the before, as leaders, they will use the media to shape your perspective. They will come and change your perspective to think that
Yeah.
they're good and all that, so that you tend to forget this corruption scandal and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can stand and say, nah, we're not taking that.
Yes.
And we will use every form of media that we have
To
show that we can't take that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as we talk, because that is calling people to accountability, that is calling leaders to accountability,
Yeah.
we can also, as we do that, also be very careful about the stories that you're sharing
Yeah.
outside, so that people don't take advantage.
Absolutely, guys.
Yeah.
Well said. I don't even have any words to add to that. All I can say is we have a responsibility, mainstream citizen journalist, as you're taking your phone as well.
Yeah.
You have a responsibility, and that responsibility could probably be one, a better Africa for all of
A
us.
better Africa for all of
Please
us.
document solutions, show our communities in a sense that they're capable of. They're not
capable
waiting
of.
for a saving grace. We are our own saving grace. That is the Africa we want.
That is the Africa we want. We can find our own solutions.
We can find our own solutions.
Sorry, our own problems.
We can find and eradicate
Yes.
our own problems
Yes.
slowly but surely.
But surely.
And that brings us to that particular point, guys. You can be a friend from Africa from wherever you are tuning in from. Talk about South Africa, Zimbabwe, wherever you are, Angola, all of you, please. You can register on our website to be a friend from Africa for Africa. Let us hear from you. This is a point where you can have your own voice heard. What does media mean to you, and what have you used it for? I mean, I would want to run a challenge on that.
Yeah.
I use media for, and hashtag Rafiki Africa at Media Mojo. I would make us very, very happy to see those challenges going on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Maybe join us next time when we're doing Friends from Africa for Africa. Why media? I hope we gave you an answer. Maybe you should give us why are you on social media. Let's get talking next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Lino Boge.
And my beautiful name is Dorcas Omole.
This is Friends from Africa for Africa. Keep it locked for the betterment of Africa.
Remember to share, like, and subscribe.
Absolutely.